buyer hesitation, seller hesitation, market hesitation. It's the real estate show. Welcome to the Real Estate Show. My name is Rick Naples. I am the owner-broker of Zone Realty LLC. You zone your home, a virtual real estate company. Hesitation. I've talked about it before on the Real Estate Show, and I wanted to talk about market hesitation. Now, first, let's define what we're doing right now. What's the market right now in real estate? I mean, are we in a buyer's market? Or are we in a seller's market? Well, for all intents and purposes, we're in a seller's market right now. In other words, the inventories of homes that are available for sale at this particular time of year, although they've increased a little bit, are still not where they used to be. So as a result, there are just a few houses out there for buyers to pick and choose from. Sellers are enjoying being able to price their homes towards the higher part of the market and getting that price from buyers. In fact, in some cases, they're getting over their asking price. Now, this can run into some issues as far as what the house will actually appraise for based on what's been selling on the market. And let's not forget that if a seller does sell their home and they do get over their asking price, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to make a ton of money because the seller has to find some place to go, right? So the seller becomes a buyer. And just like other buyers, they're going to have to pay over asking price in some cases to buy the next home they're in. So it's kind of like one thing washes out the other. There's an overall hesitation as to what is actually going to happen in the real estate market. I mean, we're seeing the interest rates slowly keep creeping up. Then we hear the interest rates might come down. Then they're steady. Then they go up again. I mean, what's going on? Prices on houses seem to be stabilizing, but then again, they're also going up higher. The market is constantly changing. So as a seller, you may get more for your house. As a buyer, you may find it difficult to find a house. And as a buyer, you're going to have a lot of competition on those houses that are up for sale. And as a seller, you're going to be faced with choices on what offer you accept and is that offer going to make it to the closing table. Because after all, it doesn't matter if it's a buyer's market or a seller's market or just a crazy market in general. If a deal doesn't come together and it doesn't get to the closing table where the keys are actually going to change hands and the seller now has sold the home and the buyer now owns the home, if that doesn't all happen, the whole deal falls apart and nobody wins. So there's hesitation that's out there. Now, buyers have a little bit more hesitation than, say, the sellers do. The buyer's worried about, what am I going to offer on a house? Am I paying too much? Can I get the mortgage that I need in order to pay that amount for that house? What kind of mortgage programs are still out there? Is my job going to be stable enough? Is the economy going to be stable enough? Do I want to make a move into the market at this particular point in time? The seller, on the other hand, is saying, geez, it's a bonanza out there. I can make a lot of money if I sell my home. But that might be short-sighted because true, you might be able to make a lot of money when you go to sell your home, but you've got to have some place to go too, right? So does that mean you're going to sell your home for as much money as you possibly can get, take that money, bank it, and then go live in an apartment? That's a whole nother story, right? Because apartments are so expensive right now that you might be trading one big bill for another big bill. If you're a seller that bought a home a few years ago, or not even a few years ago, just a couple of years ago, and you got a very low mortgage interest rate, it might be better to just stay in your home. So what happens if you're in a situation where you have to sell your home, or you're in a growing family or a family situation, or just in a life situation where you need to purchase a home? We'll take a look at that right after this presentation. If you're in a situation which requires you make a market change, or in other words, you have to step into the real estate market, you're in a situation where you need to sell a home or you need to buy a home, you have to take a lot of things into consideration. There's that second guessing that always happens. I mean, if I make my move now, is it the right time for me to make the move? Or if I have to make the move now, am I going to be paying for doing that come years future? As a seller, you have to consider what's on the market at this particular point and what your competition's going to be. I mean, what's going to make your home stand out to attract the few buyers that are out there that are actually in a position to buy? And is your home attractive enough where you're going to be able to get top dollar? And is that top dollar going to be enough for you to accomplish your next step if you're looking to buy another home? If you're a buyer, you're thinking to yourself, well, there are a few houses that are out there. Maybe I'll get lucky and find something that I'd like to purchase. But of course, there's other buyers out there that are hoping the same thing. So now when you go to make an offer on a home, you may not be the only offer. There may be several offers on that home. And then we have a bidding war situation. And we saw that happening during the COVID pandemic. We're seeing it still happen in some cases now, where you have several buyers wanting to buy the same home. So they start bidding against each other. Now, of course, one buyer doesn't know what the other buyer is offering because that's confidential. Only the seller knows what kind of offers are coming in. So you're almost blind. You got to figure, well, they're asking XYZ amount for the home, and I'm going to offer XYZ, but is that XYZ high enough if there's other offers on the home in order to win the offer for me, the buyer? And if I do win the offer, did I pay too much? Now, most buyers out there, regardless of finding a home or buying a home or situation or wherever it might be, if they do make that move into the market to buy a home, it doesn't matter what they're going to pay for it, because most of the buyers are going to finance. So now you have a situation where you not have only the buyer and the seller who are negotiating with each other in order to make a purchase happen. Now you've got other people that get involved. If it's going to be financed, now you have a bank or a finance company, and they're going to do an appraisal. The appraisal on the home is based on what like homes have sold and closed recently, usually within the last 6 months to a year. So if nothing's really been sold and nothing's closed in the price range that you're offering, you may have an appraisal issue. In other words, as a buyer, maybe you won't get the financing on the home. The seller accepted your offer because it was at listing or maybe higher than the asking price, but now the bank won't finance it because you offered too much. Now what happens? We've seen some cases where buyers have the ability to buy a home for cash. But even there's some market hesitation, because if I buy a home too high, am I going to get a return on my investment? That's the whole thing here. When you're looking to purchase a home or sell a home, it's an investment. It's based on what the market is going to do, supply and demand, as they say. You may sell a home and make a very nice sale price on the house, but then again, you're going to have to turn all that money over into the next house you wish to buy just to be competitive. If you're a buyer, you may find yourself overpaying for a house. Now you may be in that house longer than you intended to be, because it's going to take a while for the equity or the value of the house to get up to the price range of what you wanted to pay. It's very confusing, and you need to have a lot of cautiousness out there as far as what you're going to do and how you're going to do it and when you're going to do it. Realtors are involved in the market every day. Your realtor will be able to tell you if it's a buyer's market or a seller's market, and they'll be able to guide you and point out any of the advantages or disadvantages there might be should you wish to step into the market at this particular time. So the realtors have a lot of information that they can share with you. You're also going to do a lot of due diligence, as they say in banking terms. That simply means you're going to do a lot of research yourself. You're going to look at your home. You're going to look at what the value of your home might be to the market, maybe talk to a few realtors, get a few market analysis reports done. Maybe you're just going to take a guess based on what other houses are selling for, whatever. But you have to make sure that as a seller, you put your house on the market still competitively to other things that are out there. You can't just feel that the market condition, being a seller's market, will allow you to get big bucks for your house. You're just going to put it out there for way more than what it's worth, and someone's going to come along and buy it. I've seen that happen, quite honestly, and then I've seen the deal fall apart because they've made a ridiculous offer on the house and the seller accepted it. Sellers are put in the position that when they get offers on their home, they have to look at each offer individually for what that offer has to give. Sometimes an offer has a great price that it's offering, it's over what the asking is, and it looks great, but you really got to drill down and look at what else is involved in that offer. Because the transaction is separate from the market or the offer that a buyer makes or what a seller wants to sell their home for. The transaction is pretty much the same. There's a process that the real estate goes through in order to get to that closing table. And anywhere along those lines, there could be some advantages or disadvantages, some renegotiation or some unexpected things that can show up and make the whole deal fall apart. Let's take a look at this presentation. I'll be back with some more thoughts on this market hesitation. Having said all that I've said, is the seller, the person who's going to sell their home, are they in total control? I mean, can they be demanding? Can they get maximum price for their house? Can they say, this is what my house is going to go on the market for, this is the price that I want, or give me more, and then I don't want to know about home inspections or appraisals or whatever might be involved. This is my price and you're going to pay it. Are they in total control? And is the buyer helpless? In other words, if the buyer makes an offer on a house and the seller accepts it, is that just the way it's going to be? Is there no more negotiation? Is there no more direction to go in when it comes to that offer being accepted? Well, as I said, if a buyer is going to finance the home, it doesn't matter what the seller is willing to pay. There's going to be a finance company, a third party that's going to be involved, and they're not going to give the money to the buyer for a mortgage unless that home fits within that market value that they're assessing at. Now, I've seen some people make offers $20,000, $30,000 over what the asking price is and win the bid on the house, and then find they're in a situation where the bank just won't provide the financing. So unless they have cash at the ready, where if the seller digs their nose in the sand and decides this is my price and I'm not coming down regardless of what the bank says, if the buyer has the cash to make up the difference, then I've seen the deals close. But if the buyer does not have that cash available and the seller's not willing to negotiate, the deal's going to fall apart. And that could be kind of a kiss of death. In this market, a seller's market, if you as a seller put your home on the market and you accept a high offer and that offer falls apart, it's going to open the door for lower offers to come in on the home. So you have to be very, very careful. Maybe take your realtor's advice, maybe take your attorney's advice, but go into a transaction not blinded by what's being offered to purchase the house, but is the deal structured in such a way where it's going to make it to the actual closing? Now for the buyer, just because it's a seller's market, if you do find a home to buy, you're not in a position where you're helpless. You have to offer over asking. There's no more negotiation. There's always negotiation. Should you offer something on a home and the seller accepts it, you now, if you're financing the home, or even if you're buying for cash, have the right to do a home inspection. That home inspection is going to reveal a lot of things, and you may be uncomfortable in stepping forward, or you might want to negotiate with the seller on having certain repairs or certain issues taken care of. Now, I want to warn you, there are a lot of sellers out there that are taking the attitude that in a seller's market, I can get top dollar for my house and I'm going to sell it as is. I always say to a seller when they tell me they want to sell their house as is, I said, let me ask you a question. Forget that you are selling a house. You're going to buy a house. It's a beautiful house, and it's being offered on the market as is. In other words, this house, you buy it, you get it as is. What's the first thought that pops into your head? There's something wrong with the house, right? The seller, for some reason, has something to hide. Now, this might cause offers to come in lower to begin with. It also could cause buyers to go look someplace else. So you have to be very careful about wanting to put your home on the market and using that terminology, I want to sell it as is. That's something your realtor can talk to you about. There is a play when that is the proper time to use. Maybe it's not in the upfront of the marketing of the home. In this market, you have to be cautious. Interest rates are higher, prices are higher, sellers are looking to get top dollar, buyers are having challenges getting mortgages, and there's just not a lot of inventory out there at this particular time to pick from. You don't want to settle. You don't want to buy because you have to. You want to make sure you go into the whole transaction, whether you're a seller or whether you're a buyer, with your eyes open. Rely on the experts. Talk to people. Let them help guide you so you can make a good decision and feel great about the decision you made when it came to sell your home or buy a home. Just as a side note, I like to always tell stories, and I haven't told a story on the Real Estate Show in a long time. This story is about a seller that I recently met with that decided they've had enough of the maintenance of the house and, taking care of the lawn and the taxes and all that kind of stuff, and they wanted to put their house on the market. So I went over and I saw them, and we sat down and we had a really good discussion on how the transaction would happen and what would happen if they put their house on the market. And we came up with a price that seemed to be fair to the market. And we did all our paperwork and we got all ready. But I told this particular seller, I think what we should do is let's wait 1 week before we activate the house on the market. And I wanted to wait that week for 2 reasons. One, to give them a chance to really think that this is a move they want to do. And number 2, they needed to get their preparation in order. They hadn't even talked to a mortgage company yet to get pre-qualified to finance their next home. They'd like to sell their home and get enough cash out of it to buy something for cash, but we found that the prices on other homes are so high, that's not possible. So I wanted to give them a week to kind of chill and think about things and prepare a little bit. Well, long story short, as the week progressed, we went out, we looked at a few places, saw what was out on the market, saw what the prices were going to be like. They came to the decision that maybe this is not the right time to put their home on the market because they'd have no place to go. They couldn't afford any place to go. So we didn't list the house. Was that a wise decision? Well, for them at that particular time, it was. So I'm telling this story just as an example that sometimes you have to take a look at the big picture before you decide to sell or before you decide to buy. My name is Rick Naples, and this has been The Real Estate Show. I thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
summer's warm at Jaws Pawn, and we're stocked full of treasures. Big or small, we buy it all. We buy and sell fast rides, power tools, vintage guitars, and so much more. Walk the plank in style with our fine jewelry, diamonds, and watches. Plus, we have a huge selection of the latest video games, including the new PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. Jaws Pawn, conveniently located on Meriden-Waterbury Turnpike in Southington and West Main Street in New Britain.
I'm your host, Kurt Barwis. Today, I have a very special guest, Dr. Andrew Lin.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Veterans Corner. My name is Chuck Wooden.
Decision for ourselves for this week, if we want to be made well.
Hi, welcome to the crack of dawn. It's Dawn Lombardi. I'm starting the painting. It's going to be the clips with some water. Love it.
He took me on the sets of Lost in Space, Batman.
Everybody has a story. What's yours? Until next time.